Braves out in Seattle for a rubber match. Before we talk about the game, however, we come on the air with heavy hearts today because Ted Turner passed away at age 87. If Steve Jobs put a dent in the universe, then Ted Turner crashed the whole side of the car. He was nicknamed Captain Outrageous. He changed the way we watch television, the way we watch sports, the way we watch news, the way we watch baseball. An innovator, businessman, philanthropist, landowner, and Peter Moreland, my partner. There's so many other great words to describe him.
I think we think about something like an icon, and that word gets thrown around a ton, but there's no one more deserving than him, obviously. I never got a chance to meet Ted Turner, but I've had the pleasure of reading just the outpouring of responses from people all over the internet. Some of the words that I want to: brash, fearless, innovator, visionary, a true original, a force of nature, utterly unforgettable. And Paul, you had a front row seat to what it was like to play under Ted Turner. Tell us a little bit, what was that like?
Well, I did. And first of all, growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, getting to watch Superstation, I became a Braves fan. That happened all over the country. I could not believe I got the chance to play for the Braves when I first saw Braves across my chest. But Ted was eccentric. That's another word. And he came in that locker room before a playoff game and he told Greg Maddux, Greg, with the amount of money that we're paying you, you should never lose. We all burst out laughing, and it was exactly what we needed to relax us before the big game. And then in '98, when we moved in spring training to Orlando, Florida at Disney, he came in the locker room again and said, I'm taking everybody to MGM. So we loaded up the car and brought our whole family. And I thought, that's so nice of him to pay for everybody on the whole team. But when I got there and walked through the gates, we were the only ones there. He had rented out the entire MGM park for the Atlanta Braves and got people to come down from CNN to enjoy the park, the people that worked for him at CNN that would not have been able to go otherwise unless he put them on that plane. Those are the moments that you realize you played for a legend, one of the greatest owners of all time, and I'm so glad he was a baseball fan. Let's get you out to Seattle for more with Brandon and CJ.
All right, Bertie. Yeah, certainly some heavy hearts for all of us. You guys started saying it there, but Ted Turner was an icon. He was a visionary, and I think it's safe to say, for me at least, I would not be in this chair without Ted Turner. I was one of those TBS kids who fell in love with Atlanta Braves baseball through my living room, through that screen every night throughout the 90s. And Ted Turner will always be missed, but he will always, CJ, certainly be an Atlanta Brave.
And an innovator, too. I mean, that's what's so amazing when you really think about where we stand today, where we were 30, 40 years ago, and getting this thing up and running, and kind of the fight that they had to go through, right? It's one thing to have really good ideas. It's another one to be able to stand up to them and stand up to Major League Baseball the way that he had to get the Braves broadcasting around the entire country through satellite. And you talk about fans like yourself and the impact that had, and now we get to kind of live that every single day. We're in a place like Seattle, and we are running into Braves fans, and we were in Colorado because of Ted Turner, because of what he did with this Atlanta Braves broadcast, and it's just amazing, and this legacy is going to live on forever.
Yeah, and the legacy really kind of lives on through BravesVision right now. It's an entity owned and operated by the Braves, and that was the vision that Ted Turner had when he started to own this team back in the 70s. Now, one of the iconic voices, Hall of Fame broadcaster who was there for so much of Ted Turner's tenure, had a great relationship with Ted Turner, is our own Joe Simpson, and Joe Simpson now sharing his thoughts.
It surely is a very sad day, not just for sports fans, but people all over the world. You know, there was a time when working for the Superstation, if we commented about doing games coast to coast, Ted would remind us that we're not just coast to coast, we're not even international, we are universal. So this is a loss for the universe, if you want to look at it that way, and all the good things he did. In all the time that he was the owner of the team and I was working for the team, and something would come along where we might be able to improve the team by trade or acquisition of some sort. Naturally, I was not involved in those meetings, but I never heard once about any story where Ted was asked about expanding the budget to acquire a player, let's say Fred McGriff. I never once heard any stories about Ted saying no. It was always about, will it make us better? And he always said yes, to my knowledge. That's the kind of owner he was for the Braves. But this is a loss that is not just for the great things he did for Atlanta, for Georgia, for the South, but for the country. I mean, the donations he made to the United Nations, that's worldwide. There's a couple of stories that I have about him that I'll go back to. One afternoon when we were having what we called, I think, the leadoff luncheon, starting the season, and it was a big luncheon where the new players and everybody were introduced to the city of Atlanta. I had the great pleasure as the MC to sit in the back between Ted and Hank Aaron before this started. And Ted was on a roll, and he was cracking Hank up, cracking me up. It's that proverbial story you hear about, boy, I wish I would have been a fly on the wall for that one. I was the fly, and I was enjoying every second of it. And what an entertaining guy he was. What a super individual he was. The other story I heard was when he went to the NHL meetings. You know, he's the owner of not just the Braves and the Hawks. The NHL meetings, and they're talking about expansion, and he wants a team for Atlanta, and was asked, well, what would you call the team? And he turned to one of his people and he said, well, what's the state bird? And they said, the thrasher. And he goes, we'll be the thrashers, and we'll thrash the hell out of people. So there you go. That's Ted Turner. It's a big loss for all of us. He'll be sorely missed, and had such a huge impact on the Atlanta Braves, needless to say. Back to you, Brandon.
Yeah, Joe, a huge impact, no doubt. Ted Turner is the reason the Braves are the Braves. Ted Turner is the reason the Braves are one of the biggest brands in all of sports. And Ted is the reason that the Braves are America's team. Ted is the reason you will hear loud cheers from Braves fans today at a ballpark in Seattle, 2,600 miles from Atlanta. And ultimately, Ted is the reason we bring you this telecast today on a medium called BravesVision, owned and operated by the team Ted owned and operated and helped make a champion. Ted Turner may be gone, but he will live on forever through Atlanta Braves baseball.
I feel like Ted should be in the Hall of Fame for growing the game of baseball, not only in Braves country and what has been created here. There's a lot of baseball fans around the country and the world because of what Ted did through TBS. And I say this all the time, remember back then growing up, the game of the week was about it, you know, and then this came along, and so Skip, Ernie, and Pete, it was just a different kind of thing to have a game on every night wherever you lived with your hometown broadcaster every night. It was such a unique thing.
Some incredible stuff right there. I mentioned about growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, watching the Superstation. Ted Turner is an incredible man on many, many levels, not just the news. Baseball, should this guy be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, it's a simple fact. You look at the impact that he had on the game of baseball and beyond, and when you look at that sort of thing, you have to think about him as being in the Hall of Fame. There's just no doubt. They talk about it being America's team. I grew up in Australia, as you know. I didn't understand what being America's team meant until I came over here, started playing for the Braves, and all of a sudden we go on the road, and there's more Braves fans than there are home fans when we're on and I didn't understand it. And obviously now that we've known more about Ted and what he was able to do and just the innovation that he brought to this game and how it spread across the country was just an incredible thing.
When Matt Olson hit his home run number 301 last night, the crowd is cheering as if it's a home game. That's really frustrating if that's your home park and a visiting team comes in and more fans are for that team than your own city. Yeah. I got one more about Vietnam. 2 years ago, I go to Vietnam, and 20-hour plane flight. I go to sleep, try to get on schedule. I wake up, I go down, and I have breakfast. And a guy comes over to me before I even get my first plate of food, and he says, "You got to be Paul Bird." And I'm looking around like, are you kidding me? He goes, "Yeah, man, I'm a huge Braves fan. I grew up in Texas watching the Superstation. Our whole family loves the Braves. I'm now stationed in Guam with the United States Army." And he goes, "We watch the Braves every night. Love you guys. Keep doing your work." At that moment, I realized what was said. Yeah,
It's
Braves
even-
country is not just nationwide, but worldwide.
And it's even, I mean, we don't just think of the big league cities, but I mean, I spent a lot of time in AAA as well. AAA cities, there's so many Braves fans across this whole country in every city in America.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, more Braves on deck coming your way. Braves country is everywhere.